This is my second part of my ramble about changing the lost. I ended up the last part talking about how time is mutable between the land of Arcadia and the world of darkness, the modern setting that it's juxtaposed against. And as I was talking about, it can be a short time you spend in Arcadia, but in real time it's been a long time, or vice versa. You could be um, basically, gone for a little bit in one place and spend a lot of time in the other place. So depending on how you want to run the game, you can have, Arcadia time run fast or the World of Darkness time run fast, or fast slow, however you want to do it. But Changeling is a game that is described as a game of beautiful madness, and you're going to find a lot of those kind of references in the book, cruel beauty and things like that. And it's kind of going to be an interesting thing for me to try to bring that across to the gamers. When you come back, there's this borderland, kind of this wild area called the hedge, and that's why I'm sitting behind, or that's why the evergreens are behind me here, kind of to emulate the hedge. The hedge is this kind of wild area that kind of separates the worlds. It separates Arcadia from the world of darkness, and it's more of a boundary. And it is a labyrinth of thorns and hedges and horrible swamps and strange things, and it responds to those beings that have glamour, that have weird. Now, glamour is the magic; those are like the magic points of the game, and those are harvested from the emotions of people. Weird is kind of how strong you are, how much Fey essence you've kind of absorbed into yourself. And the more you have, the more you're like the true Fey. And you get a little bit crazy. Um, you become less like the person you are. So you've been to Arcadia for a while, and you're changed. You're half Fey, half mortal, and you kind of have to balance the two. And that's where the morality stat comes from. It's called clarity in this version, in the Splat book, the Changeling game, and it's kind of how you keep things balanced. It's also kind of a sanity score, kind of like Call of Cthulhu, except it doesn't spiral down as quickly, but it kind of measures several things. It's kind of a morality stat because, like for instance, if you would ever abduct somebody, that would be a big blow to your clarity because that would bring about all kinds of thoughts of being kidnapped or abused yourself. Um, so that's basically the morality stat in the game, and it degrades as you go through. And if you do certain things, if you spend a lot of time in the hedge, I think it kind of it starts to whittle away. Your glamour gets taken away. So anyway, it's like I said, I'm rambling again. So the hedge is this place in between worlds, and you can enter into it by any doorway you want. You just have to spend a point of glamour and jump through a doorway. Um, so that's kind of nice with the setting. Like if you've been arrested in the back of a police car, and they go to put you in the car, as they're trying to put you in the back, duck your head. You spend a point of glamour, go through the door, and you vanish into the hedge. The problem is that the hedge is a dangerous place. For one thing, it's closer to Arcadia, the land of the true Fae, and you escaped from there. They want you back. They don't like spending all their time and effort training you and then having you wander off or escape when they forgot to lock the cage. Although some Fae do get bored and just let mortals run away. Uh, so the hedge is this area that's closer to Arcadia, so that's dangerous. There's also other dangers in the hedge that actually live there. They're called one of the things is called a hobgoblin, and it isn't like your standard Dungeons and Dragons hobgoblin. It can be anything really, anything that lives in the hedge. That's its natural environment. So they're very devious and they're tricky, and they have different wants and desires than mortals would think they would have. Um, and I have to actually do more research into what actually all the hobgoblins are. I think there's a book that kind of goes into more detail, kind of like a monster book for the Changeling, and I want to get that eventually. Um, so But anyway, the hedge has all kinds of strange stuff in it. There's trods, which are roads that the thorns don't tear at you. Um, and like I said, the labyrinth of thorns. The standard idea is that there are all these thorns, and as you run through them, if there's no path or anything, the thorns rip at your flesh and they rip at your soul. And that's kind of an interesting concept to me. That if you spend too long in the hedge, especially as a mortal, you become soulless. And I don't know, there's interesting ideas in something like that. So the hedge is this strange place, and you actually kind of have a strange attraction to the hedge as a changeling, because it is fey. The fey created it originally, probably, but no one's really that sure. And there's goblin fruit, and goblin fruit, you can have all kinds of strange benefits. You can get glamour from it. You can get like contracts from it, if the GM or the storyteller wants you to. There's all kinds of interesting ideas in the hedge, and I think I'm going to spend a lot of my chronicle at first having them being stuck and lost in the hedge and not being able to find their way out, and having to interact with strange NPCs that they might want to kill on sight, but they might have to let live or make pledges with, verbal agreements to find their way out, because it's a lot easier to get into the hedge than it is to get out of the hedge, especially from the mortal world. I don't know. It's a really evocative setting for me. Once the characters eventually do get out into the mortal world, they've escaped Arcadia, they've managed to get through the hedge and survive. There's all kinds of strange, crazy stuff going on in the world of darkness, as most of you are aware of. But the interesting thing is that there's the mane, I think that's how it's pronounced, which is basically how you've been changed. Like maybe you have antlers on your head, or you have scales. And then there's the mask. The mask kind of hides you, kind of like a masquerade, so that most people, when they look at you, will see that fake mask. Oh, you look like a normal person. But you can be a big hulking, like ogre-looking thing, and maybe your mask is just a big bodybuilder. It basically hides you from mortal criticism, and people like who's that strange guy over there. It basically hides you. And the theme of the game is kind of like paranoia, fear, being afraid of being abducted again, and kind of a mistrust. It's like you don't trust anybody anymore. That's why a lot of these contracts and pledges are made. Weird is kind of a mystical fey force. It kind of binds the contracts, and it punishes those that break contracts. So because of the paranoia of the changelings, they want everything as a verbal contract, a pledge, an agreement, and that's it kind of soothes them, I think. There's places called freeholds, which it's kind of like a seasonal changing monarchy. There's a king, queen of spring, king and queen of summer, king and queen of fall, king and queen of winter, and every season they change, and that's supposed to help them hide from the Fae, because that's something that they would not do. And the courts, there's 4 courts in the standard book. There's more in the splat books. Winter, summer, spring, fall, and they're also tied to an emotion, and that emotion also hides them from the true Fae, because the true Fae don't understand emotion. They don't, have the emotions like we do, and that kind of protects them as well. So the idea of a freehold is that it's a place for politics. It is a place for the survivors to interact and discuss their time and their tragedies together, and it's also to protect themselves. Like protection in a group. In case the true Fae ever do come for them, they hopefully can put up some sort of defense, or some of them put up a defense and the other ones, skip out of town, and the ones that put up the defense probably die. It's kind of like strength in numbers idea, with this strange kind of revolving power at the top. All right, I'll see you in the next part.